The Unseen Echoes. Chapter 1. The Familiar Streets. As I stepped off the train and onto the worn platform, a familiar sense of comfort washed over me. The cool autumn air and rustling leaves whispered secrets to one another, reminding me of the countless afternoons spent watching trains rumble by from the porch swing. Returning to Maplewood after a year away at college was meant to be a reprieve, an escape from the chaos that plagued my dorm room in Boston. Instead, it ushered in a new series of unsettling encounters that would test my perception of reality. The once predictable rhythm of life seemed to have been disrupted, and I couldn't shake the feeling something had changed while I was away. The quiet streets hummed with an eerie silence as I trudged towards my childhood home, a weathered brownstone on Maplewood's leaf-lined Elm Street. My heart quickened with each step, not just from exhaustion, but also unease. Our house, once a haven of warmth and laughter, now felt like a relic from another time. The flickering porch light casting a weak glow across the overgrown yard, the paint peeling on the shutters in shades of yellow and blue, and the front door creaking with each gust of wind as if begging to be opened. The whispers began that first night, before I could even unpack my bags. On windless evenings when moonlight sliced through the windows like a cold blade, it was there, low murmurs echoing just beyond earshot, drifting from somewhere between dreams and reality. At first, I dismissed them as the imagination playing tricks on me. Old habits die hard in this town, where legends of specters and curses lingered behind every closed door. During my daily routines, I tried to dismiss these occurrences as mere hallucinations born of fatigue and loneliness. But it wasn't just the wind that carried the sound. The voice or voices were distinct, fragmented phrases, never clear enough for me to decipher, but laced with a haunting sadness. Whispers of forgotten stories, like fragments torn from old tales told on summer nights beneath our oak tree by neighbors' campfires. It was as if Maplewood itself was speaking in hushed tones, trying to communicate something vital and urgent. Shadows also began to haunt the periphery of my vision. Silhouettes that slipped between street lights and melted into darkness whenever I turned to look directly at them. The house seemed to grow older with each passing day. Creaks and groans reverberated like an old man's sighs in the walls, as if Maplewood's oldest resident was awakening from a long slumber. I would catch myself searching for these apparitions, my heart pounding in anticipation of catching a glimpse. Yet they remained elusive, never daring to step into the pale glow cast by street lamps or porch lights. The rustling of leaves intensified when I walked through certain sections of town, branches swaying as though beckoned by an unseen force. In the dead of night, my dreams often blended with the waking world. I'd wake drenched in sweat, convinced that a presence loomed at the foot of my bed, eyes glowing like embers before evaporating into darkness. My sister Rachel would have dismissed it all as those crazy Maplewood vibes, but she wasn't here to share her usual laugh and skepticism anymore. Gone for New York City's bright lights and dreams, our parents had passed on just last year. The loneliness that had crept in with my departure seemed amplified by these unexplained phenomena. The first week was a whirlwind of catching up with old friends. Tales of new jobs, faded romances, and the town's usual gossip. Yet behind closed doors, doubts festered. I tried to push aside these oddities for the comfort they once provided. Life in Maplewood shouldn't have been so different now that my parents were gone. It was during this routine visit with Sam Jenkins, reminiscing about old times, that I noticed something peculiar. Our conversation trailed off when a gust carried an unmistakable word. Stay. It wasn't loud or clear, but felt directed at me alone. When I looked up, the wind had stilled and the street was empty save for the shadows I'd grown accustomed to. My mind protested, rationality waning before the unsettling truth. The whispers were no longer just a quirk of my tired brain. "There's something here," it whispered back in my soul. An ancient secret awakened by my return. Days blended together as I settled into our old routine, teaching at the local high school and exploring familiar haunts during nights. It was on one such walk that I spotted him, tall and gaunt. The figure materialized near my home, standing just beyond the reach of light. He didn't seem to move or breathe, but exuded a palpable dread as he lingered in the shadows. My pace quickened until I broke into a run, pounding on our front door. No answer came. Breathless and heart-pounding, I forced myself to look back, an act of defiance against the gathering darkness. The man had vanished, leaving only my trembling reflection in the window glass. Each day brought a new sighting. Each attempt at confrontation met with thin air or the flickering shadow darting behind houses. I started sleeping on the couch, unable to shake off an oppressive feeling that someone was listening for me, watching from beyond the veil of light. One night, as the wind rustled through the oak leaves like skeletal fingers, I heard a name. Alex. It pierced through the stillness, unmistakable now. My own. The whispers rose in urgency and frequency until they were no longer whispers, but a chorus, each syllable distinct against the night air. Alex spoken once more. In the house's dim hallway, an unseen presence watched me with eyes I couldn't see or feel. Only an unsettling silence after the name hung in the air confirmed it. Rachel had always sworn Maplewood held secrets we never spoke of aloud. Now, they seemed to want me to remember them. With each passing night, my sleep became a battle between reason and the creeping dread that seeped into every waking moment. My sanity teetered on the edge of crumbling beneath the weight of these unseen forces. I knew that I needed answers or risk losing myself entirely. In the dead of night, flashlight in hand, I ventured back up the creaking porch steps for a final confrontation, prepared to face whatever Maplewood had unearthed from its dusty past. The oak tree, once a silent sentinel, now seemed to loom over our small yard like an omniscient judge waiting for my decision. I approached cautiously. Each floorboard groaned in protest as I ascended into the house I'd known by heart. In the parlor, where we used to huddle around our grandfather's ancient tales of Maplewood lore, a single page had been torn from his dusty journals. A chill crept up my spine. The Shadow People, a tale about an entity born from forgotten prayers and vengeance. I had always dismissed it as myth for kids' fright nights, but this night it resonated with an unsettling authenticity. My palms turned damp as I clutched the flashlight to study the pages further by the dying light of the porch lamp. The words "stay" or "face what you've become" danced across the page in familiar handwriting. My mother's. The echoes had grown louder still, now carrying a distinct message. Maplewood wanted something from me. It had always been here, waiting silently for my return. Chapter 2. The whispers intensify. The night had been unkind to me, the whispers escalating into a cacophony in the hours preceding dawn. In the morning's pale light, my mother's journal lay open on the floor where I'd left it. They come when you've lost your way. That eerie message had me questioning every memory from childhood nights, spent listening under the oak to tales of shadow people, vengeful spirits drawn to those who'd strayed. Rachel used to talk about them as if they were a bad joke, but now she was really gone, and I wasn't. A door creaked, Upstairs, in the attic's musty air, something moved between old trunks. The presence that haunted me since their passing seemed alive tonight, tangible. I had almost convinced myself to flee when I heard a rustle among my father's things, an unmistakable form of shadow playing against the trunk's canvas. I pulled back the lid. A leather-bound book was gone, but atop it lay a note. Your path is not the one you know. Shadows swirled outside the attic window in a way that suggested they understood me. As I stood there, an old photo slipped from within and fluttered down, landing at my feet. It depicted our family standing before the oak tree. The man who watched was among us then. The shadow people had come home. My gaze settled on his face. My own. I could feel them. They'd been waiting patiently for me to recognize what I'd become. A lost soul drifting between worlds, just as Rachel had always said. That night, I heard Rachel's voice in the dreams. "Begone, Alex." Her words echoed from beneath our bed. The shadow people wanted something only I knew how to give them. If this madness gripped me, perhaps they would leave us be. As sunlight broke, shadows danced across my room like dark specters, their outline unmistakable. It was time to listen to Grandpa's tales for the truth behind these apparitions. Weeks passed, classes taught themselves, and nights ventured into a haze of research. The stories spoke of people from our town who'd strayed. Lovers in secret, outcast kids seeking identity. All trapped between worlds by their own making or regret. I pieced together tales as a child might, but they were now my only lifeline to sanity. Shadows swirled on the oak tree's trunk, beckoning me to face them head-on and claim our legacy. "Stay," the night air whispered again. In a moment of reckless courage, under moonlight, I stood before their silent witness. They spoke in voices both familiar and strange. Sam, my parents, Rachel, each pleading for something buried deep within me, something only they knew. I recalled a family heirloom, passed down through generations, an old pocket watch with our name etched on the back. I clutched it tightly as if it could protect me from what I sought to confront. Who am I? The whispers became a chant. My answer. Chapter 3. The Final Whisper. A storm rolled in and raged outside, the oak tree creaking like an old soul's pleas when darkness fell once more. I knew their secret now. I knew them. They spoke of family secrets, and what I'd become after death had taken so much. With a resolve forged from desperation, I descended into that cellar Rachel used to call my graveyard, the musty repository of our history books, photographs, and relics that told our story. In the darkness, a single light flickered, an old desk lamp casting eerie shadows. The pocket watch lay on it beside a stack of pages ripped from Grandpa's journals. A final secret, buried as deep as our pasts. I opened them cautiously. Words from his tales spilled onto the page in my father's script. Stories of love and betrayal turned to darkness by the shadow people, all for a single reason. They sought atonement. The man from the photograph stood behind me, his eyes the last thing that remained when moonlight bled into dawn. They'd never had their due. It was time I gave them peace. On a piece of paper, in Rachel's familiar handwriting, a message I now understood too well. Don't let them take you. She'd been right all along, but I'd come home to stay and face this legacy. The shadow people beckoned as one would call out to an old friend. Our family histories merged with those of Maplewood, our lives stitched together by love, sin, or a combination of both. A light drizzle laced with rain began outside as I opened the creaking attic door beneath the oak. This was it, my path, theirs or mine. The wind died at that moment, as if waiting for what came next. I had to learn how to face them. With every step into our history, they grew bolder. When I could no longer distinguish the living from the dead, I'd find a way out of this purgatory together with Rachel or by myself. Shadows enveloped me, and in that embrace, we parted ways forevermore, leaving behind only leaves rustling against my skin like restless prayers. They were not just tales anymore, but an unfinished life's legacy. Mine to claim, theirs to set free. In the end, they'd be the bridge I needed back home. There was no way forward without them. They had been wrong. In death, there is purpose if you can find it. Now that night, their legacy was also mine, and the only way out would be with both worlds' hands guiding me through them.